All right, so today we are taking a ski plane all the way to landing on the Tasman Glacier, just right below beautiful Mount Cook. So as we are watching this very unique experience in New Zealand that you'll see in real time, which is quite fun, we will be talking about something, what does I say, cool, and it's packing for winter in New Zealand. So as we say in New Zealand, there is no such a thing as bad weather, there is just bad gear. So with the list in this video, you won't be ill-equipped to face a general winter here in New Zealand. We will help you pack should you come for a backpacking trip or a holiday with your family, and the kids will help you have everything at the ready for weathering the weather of the winter of New Zealand. So without further ado, let's get started just before we take off. All right, Laura, shall we begin with a little bit of information about winter in New Zealand? So how cold does it get, basically?
Yeah, well, how cold does it get? It depends on whereabouts in New Zealand you are visiting, because there is very different temperatures around the country. Yep, I will do that in a sec. North Island temperatures. So yeah, if you're in the North Island, that is a bit milder compared to the South Island. So you will expect highs around 14 degrees Celsius, which is...
it's about 57 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, and lows of about 2 degrees Celsius.
Which is about 36 degrees Fahrenheit.
And then in the South Island, you can expect highs of around 13 degrees Celsius.
Which is 55 degrees Fahrenheit.
And lows of around minus 3 degrees Celsius.
Which is 27 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, so as you can see, it can get a lot more chillier on the South Island. So if you are spending most of your time just say in Auckland in New Zealand, then you probably don't need to get as winter prepared as compared to the South Island. But for most of you traveling to New Zealand, you like to explore the whole country, and you definitely should. So when is winter in New Zealand? Winter in New Zealand are the months of June, July and August. But it kind of pays to have a winter sort of outfits prepared also just before June, which is the month of... April, right now, yeah.
April, May are two good months to kind of get started, to get prepared for winter.
And then just after August, maybe like September, winter outfit for September is usually a good idea as well. So yeah, if you're traveling mainly between the months of June and August, this is when you want to have your winter packing list sorted.
And that's what we're going to be doing next. All right, so let's start with clothing. That's pretty much the number one thing that people think of when they think about planning a trip to New Zealand in winter and not being cold. So Laura, go over that.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, before we just go through the whole list, a thing to bear in mind is that laundry facilities are pretty easy to find in New Zealand. So, you know, when you're packing for, you know, a trip that's more than a week, which most people do for New Zealand, usually it's, you know, 2, 3, even a month, 2, 3 weeks, or even 4 weeks, which is a month. So yeah, just bear in mind that you will be able to do your laundry at many accommodations along the way, so you don't need to worry too much about that. And then as we go through the list, bear in mind that this is for one person, so if you are traveling with multiple people in your group, make sure you have each of these items per person. So let's begin. Checking things off the list here. So starting with one pair of leggings / sweatpants, whatever you prefer. One pair of hiking pants, so that's sort of that material that quickly dries. That's really important. Either one sweater / hoodie, fleece or mid-layer. So, you know, depending on what you have available, just sort of that a warm mid-layer that you can put, as we're going to get there a bit later, over the top of a jacket. Underneath a jacket. One thermal underlayer, so this can be top and bottoms, so you can get long johns, which is really nice and toasty, especially if you're doing any outdoor activities in winter. Wearing them underneath your hiking pants is a really good idea.
Yeah.
And then thermal underlayer for your top as well, so you have that extra layer, that extra bit of warmth. And then, you know, if it does get a bit too warm, then you can always take that mid layer off and just have your underlayer, because usually the underlayer is the hardest to take off when you're on the go. So you have all those options to layer up and layer down. Next up, make sure that you have one warm, waterproof and windproof jacket. So this is your eventual over layer. So this is so if it starts raining, you definitely want to have a very good waterproof jacket. If you're doing any walks where it's, you know, where the wind is really high, then having some windproof, you know, material, which essentially is usually a waterproof jacket, does the job.
Yeah.
That will feel so much warmer than all that wind going through all your many woolen jumpers and stuff. Definitely will highly recommend the waterproof or windproof jacket on this one. And then for the rest, you'll want about 6 tops / t-shirts, whatever you tend to wear on that sort of area. 6 pairs of socks, preferably woolen. And the reason is that woolen socks dry a lot faster than cotton socks. And cotton socks can sometimes just, once they get cold, they sort of keep the cold. So usually better to have woolen socks if you can get those. 6 pairs of underwear. 2 bras if applicable.
I tend to forget mine.
Yeah. 1 pair of hiking shoes. So we do recommend that you have a good pair of either hiking shoes or hiking boots. You'll kind of know what you prefer. Walking shoes is usually comfortable even for like day-to-day activities as well. So having them, comfortable and preferably waterproof. That is kind of essential as well. 1 pair of flip-flops is a good idea, even in winter, especially if you're staying in hostels or campsites, perhaps where there are shared showers. That's a good idea to have flip-flops on. Or if you are doing sort of any water activities that you might want to quickly put on a pair of flip-flops to get around. For instance, if you're going to the hot pools and you're walking between, you know, hot pool areas, or if you've done the blackwater rafting caving adventure and you're just sort of getting yourself like quickly dry.
Or if you're staying in a hostel and want to use them in the shower.
Yeah, I already said that.
Oh, wow.
Robin is totally out of it.
Oh, the scenery is so beautiful. I'm kind of looking down and I'm like, oh yeah, Laura's talking.
Yeah. Flip-flops are pretty useful. And another reason you might want to have them as well is if you are doing any of the long hikes or multi-day hikes and you want to rest your feet after you've been wearing hiking shoes all day, then usually they're good to sort of like, nice to sort of air out your feet but still be able to walk around not in barefoot. 1 pair of swimwear. So yeah, even in winter there's
hot pools, baby.
Yeah, there's even reasons to wear swimwear. So like Robin says, the hot pools, or if you are doing things like, you know, the caving in Waitomo, maybe some whitewater rafting, that sort of things. In some areas, whitewater rafting is available all year round. Not everywhere, but in some places. So you might want to have swimwear for those activities. 1 beanie. So in other words, a woolen hat. So yeah, a beanie's really good for like, as most of you are aware, most of your heat will actually leave your body through your head. So if you are really prone to the cold, then a beanie is a really good way to make sure you're nice and toasty. 1 scarf or a neck warmer or whatever, like there's different products that you can get for this. So a scarf or a buff, that sort of thing to keep the chill off your neck. That is a good idea. And then finally, a pair of sunglasses. So yeah, even in winter, you can have stunningly sunny days, which is, which is great. But if you're going, for instance, if you're going to, say, ski fields or going to any of these snowy regions, perhaps even taking this flight over Mount Cook, and yeah, that the sun and the snow can have a lot of glare, so wearing sunglasses, especially also when driving, definitely an essential, even in winter.
All right, so this list is basically the bare essential for winter in New Zealand. However, some travelers may prefer to take an extra, let's say, pair of thermal underlayers or mid layers and extra few things. So if you have room, well, obviously adapt this list to yourself. We also didn't include pajamas because you can definitely sleep in your underlayers, but if you feel like adding that, you can add your sweatpant leggings, top underlayers, or however you feel. So make sure to kind of customize this one as you can. So as we are approaching the beautiful Tasman Glacier, New Zealand's longest glacier, we will be moving on to toiletry to pack very soon. All right, so next up on our list, we have toiletries to pack. Laura, take it away.
Yeah, so again, obviously toiletries is very personal to a lot of people. Some people have beauty regimes, some people do not. So
I have an ugly regime.
yeah, so obviously there's going to be bits of extra stuff you might want to add to this list or take off this list if you're like, I don't brush my teeth, what are you talking about? So this is just a good reminder list for those, just those extra things that you're like, oh, I didn't think about that, or oh yeah, I should remember to pack
Or if you're just listening to that podcast just before you are packing or as you're packing your bag and you're just using it as a checklist to make sure you have everything.
All right, so let's starting with the list. Let's go. So we suggest you bring toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoo and or conditioner, deodorant.
Especially if you're taking bus tours with a lot of other tourists, please pack deodorants.
Please use deodorant. Hairbrush or a comb, whatever you prefer to brush your hair with. Hair bobbles or bands. Feminine hygiene products. A razor. Moisturizer. Makeup. Q-tips. Tissues. Contact lenses or glasses, maybe a spare pair of glasses just in case you, I don't know, break your glasses doing something silly. And finally, sunscreen. And yes, we're serious. Even in winter, sunscreen can be a pretty good idea, especially if you're going to high altitude areas. So perhaps you're doing one of the heli hiking tours, doing Franz Josef.
Or even what we're doing right here, which is a ski plane tour.
Doing the ski plane tour where you're spending time, you're getting out of the plane and you're going into high altitude areas, maybe going to some ski fields. If it is a sunny day, then that sun can still burn pretty bad in New Zealand. New Zealand is known for having one of the highest UV levels in the world, even in winter. So definitely recommend getting some sunscreen, although you don't have to have a huge pot of it. Probably for winter, just a small tub will do, and put it in your day pack. But yeah, bearing in mind also that with this whole list of toiletries that we've just given you, you can get a lot of these in New Zealand. So if you're if you're like, oh, I'll just get that in New Zealand, you definitely can. However, it's usually just better to save time for a lot of those things, to not have to, okay, we need to make a stop to go buy all these things. If you want to save time and have them all prepared, then they're the essentials to sort of have with you.
Another note that we didn't include like soap in this list because usually it's included in like accommodation. So except like, campsite and hostel dorms, usually you'll be sorted with soap. But if you do have your own soap that you really enjoy, well, just feel free to pack it in your nice little soap box.
Yes.
All right, so let's move on to a first aid kit because yes, well, accident can happen even when traveling in a country as safe as New Zealand. So having a small travel first aid kit is always a good idea, and especially something which is small enough to be able to take in your day pack when you're going on a day walk or something. Like the likelihood is that you're never going to need to use it, right? But it's always good to have a small one packed. And also by forcing yourself to actually use a small day pack style first aid kit, you also ensure that you are sticking to all the airline requirements for the quantity of things that you can carry with you, as well as the biosecurity requirements and all that. If you stick to that small one, well, likelihood is that you're going to be below all the quantities which require to be declared, etc. Right?
Yeah.
But again, if you're unsure about what you bring into New Zealand, in case of doubt, make sure to declare it on arrival. It's always safer to declare it. Anyway,
Yeah.
what should we have in our first aid kit, Laura? As we are close to landing right here, it's going to be quite
that's
thrilling
a
right
pretty
here.
cool shadow. as
Yeah,
well.
no, that's really fun. We're about to land. Laura, come on, go for
I'm
it.
so distracted
no,
now.
No, what do you have in my
Okay.
first aid kit?
So this is probably not something directly in your first aid kit, but related to medication, is any prescription medication. Make sure that you do bring enough for your whole trip. Usually it's best to bring prescription medication in their original containers, so that it has like basically the name of the person it's prescribed to, and showing that it's prescribed from a doctor. It's not usually checked at biosecurity, but it is technically one of the sort of items required, that if you have got prescription medication with you coming to New Zealand, that it is prescribed to you and that you can prove that. Okay, so next up, just some quick stuff for us, especially for the first aid kit, are plasters/band-aids, depending on where you come from and how you say that. Disinfectant wipes, gauzes with clips or tape, tweezers, hand sanitizer, paracetamol or ibuprofen, antiseptic cream, and hydrocortisone cream. So there's some good sort of first aid kit essentials.
And Christina in the chat is also adding to get some laundry strips. So they are those kind of like laundry sheets that you can just break into small pieces and put into your laundry as detergent. She said they were the best thing to bring for the laundry in the accommodation. It is true, although I have learned lately that polypropyl alcohol is actually a type of plastic, so it basically adds the plastic into the waterways, which is not ideal. And I am quite upset that they sell all those laundry sheets as like a planet saving. Yes, I'm very upset. They're not that eco-friendly because they're literally made of plastic. Anyway, we've made it onto the Tasman Glacier, so we're going to be exploring a little bit of the Tasman Glacier. And next up, we'll talk about some more miscellaneous that you need to pack for your trip to New Zealand. So the pilot is now locking us back in, and so as we are about to take off, let's continue with our theme of the week, because I was saying I wanted to do the taking off, with the next section of our theme. So yeah, we'll do that. If you guys don't have any other comments on crazy ice bath or reasons to jump into icy cold water for absolutely no good reason, you crazy people.
Another good reason to bring your swimwear.
Yeah, to go and jump in water with a bunch of ice cubes for that.
Always travel with your swimwear, people.
Indeed. All right, so let's continue with our winter packing list for New Zealand. So again, this is the packing list for you if you want to travel in New Zealand in June, July, and August, which are kind of the winter months. But obviously, use that packing list for any of the surrounding months around that. So listen, we've done the clothes, we've done the toiletries. There is a lot of other little things that don't really have a category. So this is all the miscellaneous. Laura, go for it.
All right, let's just get straight into the list. So first up, you want to bring your New Zealand travel adapter. If you haven't got it, the Type 1 travel adapter, or none of your appliances work with the Type 1 plug, then you'll need that for New Zealand. Next up, you'll probably want a camera, or maybe your phone is just fine as a camera, but if you have a camera, bring it. If you have a phone, bring it. Electronic device chargers, so anything that needs charging or anything that needs extra batteries, perhaps, make sure you bring some of those.
And it's especially a good idea in winter, right? Because batteries deplete faster when it's cold. So for that reason, if you're planning on traveling in winter or doing a lot of cold activities, then you realize that your devices are going to run out of battery much faster.
And as another note to that, if you do have anything that you're bringing that requires,
here we go,
big batteries or extra spare batteries, it's usually a good idea to pack those into your carry-on rather than your check-in luggage, because lithium batteries are seen as sort of a restricted item that you can't pack in your check-in luggage, just so you know. Bring your passport, that's a good idea. Make sure that it is still valid, that it's not going to run out while you're here in New Zealand. Make sure that that's all up to date. Your driving license is good for well, no, it's not even good for ID. So your driving license, if you're getting it for car rental, and if your driving license is not in English, then you will probably need to get an IDP along with it. So that's translating it into English, and it's
international driving permit.
Yeah. Next up, make sure that you bring your flight ticket and return ticket, so you can just sort of like print those off. The e-tickets, just print them off as like an extra backup that you have those available. It is one of the requirements for coming to New Zealand that you do have a ticket leaving New Zealand or sufficient funds for getting a ticket to leave New Zealand. So it's also good to have as evidence as part of your sort of tourist visa conditions.
Speaking of,
make sure that you do have your visa and supporting evidence if required. So this is different for different people depending on what visa they're bringing. Make sure that if you are just visiting and you're from one of the visa waiver countries, then make sure that you've done the NZ before coming to New Zealand. And that's we have whole other videos on that subject and information on nzpocketguide.com, so you can check out more information about that if you are unsure about what all those NZETAs and NZTAs and blah 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 are all about. You will also want to bring a credit or a debit card. Make sure that it is, it's usually best to have it as Visa or MasterCard.
It's better to have contacted your bank as well to tell them that you'll be in New Zealand, give them your travel date so they don't block your payments once you do your first payment in New Zealand. That has happened. Moving on.
Yeah, it's a good idea to bring some New Zealand dollars even to start with, or be able to take out some, bring some cash so that you can do some exchanges when you arrive in New Zealand, just in case there's any problems with your bank card for the first few days that you arrive. That's a good idea. Another thing that you can bring is a reusable water bottle or water bladder. So the tap water in New Zealand is safe to drink. So by all means, you can reuse water bottles, and that's a really good idea to stay hydrated while you're traveling and doing perhaps more activity than perhaps you're usually used to doing at home. So definitely having that available is good. If you're planning on doing a self-catering holiday, i.e. you're not having all your meals out at cafes and restaurants, then bring maybe a couple of reusable food containers. Shopping bags as well. In New Zealand, you have to pay to get paper bags from the supermarket. So it's good to have some of your own sort of fold up nice and small reusable shopping bags if you want to save a few cents here and there. A travel towel is good if you're staying in campsites or hostels or holiday parks. Bear in mind that at most other accommodations like motels and hotels, they will have towels available for you. So that's up to you really. Travel games and entertainment, if you are, have some downtime, especially if you're traveling with kids and stuff, think of a way.
The journey to New Zealand is very long.
Journey to New Zealand is very long, so make sure you have plenty of entertainment to do with that.
All right, so if you're planning on camping or staying in huts, obviously you'll need to pack a few extra things. So if you're planning to camp, you will need to get a lightweight tent and a sleeping mat. Do make sure that all the gears are properly cleaned to respect New Zealand's biosecurity laws. If you're planning on staying in huts, so doing some of the great walks, for example, make sure you do have a 4-season sleeping bag that's going to keep you snug and warm during those winter nights in huts in New Zealand. You also probably will need a torch slash flashlight. Damn, that was close to that snow.
I know, I was thinking that.
Okay, you guys don't get distracted by the video. It's all fine. If you do have a camping stove, those ones that kind of like clip themselves on top of a canister, that's a pretty good idea to bring that, because you can get the canisters in New Zealand. And then obviously camping cooking utensils if you're planning on making your own food as you progress. We obviously have plenty more information about that on the guide. There is a link for you in the description of this video. Finally, it may be a good idea to have a day pack slash backpack for when you go on a bit of a hike. So do make sure that you pack yourself a nice day pack that you can use as a carry-on. It's always a good idea. Some people ask us, as a last thing I want to point out, what's the difference between taking a backpack or a suitcase in New Zealand? Well, the difference is whatever you prefer. But we do have an article on NZ Pocket Guide about backpack versus suitcase, where you kind of fight it out. It's kind of fun. We may have to do that as a video one day. That'd be funny. Anyway, so that wraps up this video about what to pack for winter in New Zealand. If you want everything in a written format, so you have a checklist, there is a link in the description of this video, and that will send you to the right article on NZ Pocket Guide. If you find this video useful, make sure to like, subscribe, and click all the buttons. We don't like to harass you about it, but YouTube really want us to harass you about it, so please do that sometimes. And yeah, you can also join us on Patreon if you want our personal help to plan your trip to New Zealand, like Seok and Christina that were in the live chat today. It's really fun to plan your trip together with your weekly group calls, which is really fun, where we actually can all just chat together about your upcoming trip. And there is also a support group on Facebook, which is exclusive to our Patreon members, so you have access to us, you know, basically all week long, which is quite cool. Anyway, we see you in the next video.